So for a long time now, my Nikon F3 started to show some weird reoccurring light leaks with a specific shape and color, which I couldn't get fixed for a long time. But I'm happy to say that I finally found a solution for this specific kind of light leak, and if you're experiencing the same light leaks on your Nikon F3, I can happily say that I can show you the solution for it. Now the problem in this specific light leak lays in one specific light seal that isn't really obvious at first, but after some digging in the internet, especially on Reddit, I finally found the solution for it. And I thought, while fixing, I might just record it and let you guys know the solution, so maybe you can happily use your F3 again, like myself. If you're experiencing light leaks in general with your Nikon F3, I can highly recommend changing all other light seals out at first and see if it fixed the problem. Because this light seal change is a bit tricky and it can harm your camera if you're doing the wrong moves. But don't you worry, if you work carefully and most importantly patiently, you will be able to fix this light seal as well. The most important part is to be careful not to get any scratches on your mirror, and don't let any goo fall into your shutter, which can make the shutter become stuck. So just be very careful with the process and you will be good to go. To check if you have to replace this one specific light seal on your Nikon F3 as well, you need to see the pattern of your images. First of all, it's important to check if you have a white colored light leak, which means the light is leaking from the front of the camera. So mostly something inside the mirror box. And because of the weird shape and reoccurring shape, it was always the same shape and color, I first thought it's a problem with the shutter not closing correctly in time, but happily it was just a small little light seal in the mirror box itself. If you, on the other hand, experiencing light leaks that are not really reoccurring and pretty random looking, and also of the color red, orange, and not completely white, it's probably some light seals in the film back of the camera. So like I said, just make sure you changed all the other light seals that are pretty easy to replace first. So in order to change this light seal, which lays right above the mirror inside the mirror box, you need to get rid of some screws and layers on top of the viewfinder. So at first you take off your viewfinder and then you can see in the video what screws you need to remove. So I'm going to guide you step by step how to remove the viewfinder and also unscrew the 4 screws with this tiny screwdriver head that you're gonna need, and in order to get access to the light seal that we want to replace here. So if you never took off your viewfinder of your F3, which I highly doubt, but who knows, you have these buttons here that you can push in, and then you can just lift the whole viewfinder while pushing them up. It seems a bit scary when you do it for the first time, but just trust, if you pushed these buttons down at the same time, you can just lift it up in this motion and then you will be good to go. Be careful how you place the viewfinder because it's an expensive and fragile object, so just leave it there, not on the glass side sitting on the table. Then we already at the focusing screen. This is really easy, but once again, just be careful with the process. At the focusing screen, you see you have this little ledge here, which is perfect for your thumb. You can push up a bit in this motion and you see there's like the spring mechanism. And if you push up and lift it up at the same time, you get the focusing screen. Now make sure you don't necessarily touch the focusing screen and just grab it with your 2 fingers with the latch and then carefully place it on your table. I like to place it like this so it never touches the table. You can also just place it on a piece of cloth or something. And now we are already at the 4 screws that we want to get unscrewed. You can see number 1, number 2, number 3 and number 4. And we're just going to unscrew them carefully. It is really helpful if your screwdriver head is magnetic so you don't accidentally drop the screws inside the mirror or anything. So just gonna start like that. Unscrew it carefully until you hear a little click. And that's what I meant. If your screwdriver is magnetic, you're perfectly fine and can just grab them out. Place them next to the other items that we already disassembled. And make sure you don't lose the screws because that would be kind of a problem. Second screw out, and you can see it's a pretty easy and straightforward process which everyone can do with no problem. Only thing you always have to keep in mind, if you start doing this, if you decide to replace the light seal, plan in lots of time so you don't feel stressed, and just be patiently in every step. Don't rush things or just do things without thinking before. If we unscrewed these 4 screws, we're now able to lift all the things up. Now my recommendation is to stack these things in order on top of each other on your table, so later you can just get piece by piece back in there, so the order is like it was before. Now here I would like to take a big grab, and you see I already got the first piece. This is like a piece of dark metal, and this is gonna be going back in later. So this piece, I turn it around. There are 2 metal pieces like this going here on top of that, and then all you have to do is get rid of one more thing, which is this metal whatever. Place it here, and then we officially, as you can see, I refilmed this whole process of undoing the viewfinder and the screws. Here is my newly replaced light seal already, but in the next clips you're gonna see how I replaced it, removed the old one and got the new one inside. But this reveals perfectly the new light seal or the old light seal that we want to replace, and then you can really easily work on that. If you remove the lens here, you have nice access, as you're gonna see in the clip later very soon. Just make sure to take good care of this mirror. You don't want any scratches, and also be careful with the goo that's falling out. If you rip off the old light seal, I recommend holding it like that, so the goo that's necessarily gonna fall is falling down on your table and not inside the camera. That could harm the shutter mechanism if something sticky gets inside the shutter. So that's really all you have to be taking care of, and you're gonna see how I replaced the light seal in there. And that really solved my problems with the light leaks, with the white light leaks, with this reoccurring shape. Because if you think about it, in a bright sunny day, if I was taking a shot, viewfinder here, because the light could go inside here, it fell down here and into the onto the film. So this really prevents the light to leak in a bright sunny day. So now we are inside the mirror box, and you can see my light seal wasn't really a proper light seal anymore, which caused the light leak problems. I was lucky enough that the adhesive side of the light seal was still intact and flexible, so it was pretty easy for me to rip off the entire light seal without having to later use some cleaning alcohol to get rid of the other sticky stuff. If that is the case for your F3 light seal, I can highly recommend even more that you take good care of the process. Do it really in tiny steps, step by step. Be patient, especially if you're gonna have some cleaning alcohol in there. Don't get anything on the mirror or other parts of the mirror box. Just make sure you're doing a proper job and don't harm anything in the process. As you can see here, this light seal is placed on this flexible part, so make sure to not use more force than necessary and don't rip or damage this moving part inside the mirror box. After I got the old light seal out, I took the air blower and cleaned off any dust, so later the new adhesive can properly stick in there. For the new adhesive, I made my life easy and placed the old light seal onto the table, so I have a measurement for the new cutout. And you can see here I didn't have the proper size that it used to be before. It's just important that it's big enough and it will cover all the parts that will seal the light properly. Now, when you place in the new light seal, it's a bit tricky because, like I said before, it's placed onto this moving part, but just get it in there as good as possible and then readjust it later, step by step, as you can see here in my process. I didn't get the perfect alignment on there at first, and it's properly sticking on there, but if the light seal is still fresh, you can just use some force with your tweezers and adjust it to your liking until it's perfectly sitting in there. This is once again a tedious process. Just be patient with it. Don't use too much force, especially with your pointy tweezers. Don't get any holes in this moving part there. So you'll make sure that you properly seal the light with the new light seal. So I'm basically just repeating this small tiny movement until the whole light seal sits nice and flush next to the mirror. And after that is done, it's finally time to reassemble everything. These are the parts that we removed before to get access to the light seal, and now we're going step by step, putting them back in to get the 4 screws into place as well. First we start with the metal thing. It just clips in like that, no problem, and the other parts are easy to get in there again as well. Make sure you align the holes for the screws properly. You can use the tweezers or your hands, it doesn't really matter, but just make sure that the screw in holes are exposed so the screws later can go in without any problem. Now we're already at the last piece that we need to place back in, and then the 4 screws can get screwed back in there. What I can recommend in this process is to not tighten all the screws all the way back in, so you still have some movement left. So I start with the upper right corner and move diagonally, so you can later align the screw holes perfectly so you don't damage the metal plates that are under the screws. And then it's already time for the focusing screen again. It's a pretty easy, straightforward process. You just grab it by the latch and then push it back in, and that's about it. And then for the last step, we just take our viewfinder and push it back on there. And then we're already finished with this whole process. As you can see here, we perfectly placed the new light seal there. Everything is nice and tight sitting again, and there's no gaps there. Make sure that you check this before shooting a new roll of film, that this is properly sealed now. So that's about it, and I'm really hoping that some of you can also fix their Nikon F3 like that, because I gotta say this is really my most used and most favorite film SLR for 35mm ever made, and I'm so happy I could fix it. If you guys having any problems, issues or questions about this whole process, you can leave me a comment in the section down below, and I can assure you that I will answer every single comment, and most of the time I will answer within a few hours because I have my comments on my phone, so whenever I see it I'm happily to help you guys out. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. I hope I could provide you with some help, and we're gonna see each other very soon in the next video. Bye!